I'm not. All right, we are live on YouTube and starting podcast in 3, 2, 1. Diary of a Trans Woman is brought to you by all of the people over at patreon.com/diary of a trans woman. You want to learn more about what this show is doing and how you can help out, head on over to patreon.com/diary of a trans woman. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 73 of Diary of a Trans Woman. I am Abby West, and my BFF and CHI is with us. EJ, how you doing?
Hey, Abby. I'm doing as well as can be expected.
Something's going around. It has been, I don't know if it's for just in general or if it's just trans people, but people have not been having a good time lately.
No.
We had my crap last week, which I made a promise not to get into on the podcast ever again. So we're gonna kind of leave that lay for now. But yeah, you've had a weekend.
So I was out at a bar on Friday night, and so for people who haven't seen me standing up, I'm 6'7", without shoes on. I mean, depending on the size of the shoes, I can be even taller than that. So I was at this bar and I was just standing there and I was, hanging out. And this guy who's very drunk approaches me. He comes up to me and just like, he starts, just kind of peppering me with questions, he goes straight for my height, of course. And he says, I'm 5'9" and I've never met anyone taller than me. It's like, okay. First of all, if you look like a foot to your left, you can tell that that is false. Okay, you're already way too drunk. And so he goes like, oh, so I got, I don't, so I got, I was going to ask you, are you a woman? I'm like, yes. Like, seriously? Like, yeah. He's like, serious? Have you ever been with a man before? I was like, no, I'm a lesbian. Which, okay, maybe let's simplify my sexuality for a little bit to get him out of it. He just wouldn't go away. It was just like, and he kept on putting himself down. He's just like very, very unconfident in his advances, but
he wanted a pity vote.
Just, it was not good. And I just like, he was just getting all in my face, and it was weird because like, I think of myself as someone where I'm like, I'm this giant person. And so if someone who's like this 5'9" cis dude comes up to me and is just like, I think I know how to handle this. I'm much bigger than him and I'm very scary, but I didn't count on him being so drunk. And so
I mean,
I was just kind of standing there uncomfortably,
I got no problem if was this at a gay bar or just a regular bar?
Oh, just a regular little bar.
Okay. If somebody wants to come up to me and like talk to me with confidence,
right,
I'm okay with that. Like that can be a turn on if it's handled correctly. If somebody's like, "Hey, you're kind of cool. Let's talk. Let me treat you like a human being," and yeah, we can be like, "That's pretty tall for a woman. I think that's pretty cool. That's cool. That's all right." But you got to have You got to have a game plan.
It's
This
just like,
guy,
just the, I mean, totally like bruised me, like when he was just like, "Are you a woman?" And it's just like, okay, I know I'm not like super well done up tonight, but it's just like this is kind of like the thing no one talks about and you have decided to talk about. So thank you.
yeah.
And so I'm sitting here and like all of a sudden just like him breaking this barrier has me just feeling it's just like, oh, I'm very exposed. Usually people are afraid of me and do not talk to me. And like all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, everybody knows. And like later I was hanging out, I was just like sitting down there, by at some booth by myself, just kind of recovering. And like there were some other dudes who just kind of got too close to my area. And I was just like very just nervous around them. I don't know. All of a sudden it just like kind of sapped my confidence and like my ability to behave around the people around me. I'm just like, whoa, if this like one drunken 5'9" dude who cannot remember the heights of other people, like who does not know their relative sizes, if
Five
that
foot, who thinks he's
taken
the
so
tallest man
much,
in the world.
yeah, like
It kills your confidence because I mean, you go from just being EJ sitting in a bar to the trans woman sitting in a bar.
right. I mean, I wasn't there to make friends. I was there to win, you know? I mean, I wasn't there just like waiting for somebody to come up to me and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm not there to get my rocks off, you know? I was just
Or even I'm not. Yeah, you're not there to answer. You're not there to be a teacher either.
right. I'm not there to talk to strangers at all. I
Yeah.
really like this is kind of something where I was just like hoping that my general cold demeanor and several times, I mean there was a burlesque show going on in the background. I was just like, "Hey, let's watch the show. Hey."
Hmm.
I was just like trying to get him to like not be very much in my personal space. I don't know. I mean, it sounds so like minor when I'm retelling it, but it was just like it was just so like off-putting and jarring and
It shatters. It shatters a lot of the confidence and the image that you put up for yourself. I mean, everyone goes around putting up this image of what other people see.
right,
They do it consciously or not. And when you draw attention to that, it shatters and you become hyper aware of it.
yeah,
And that's happened to me before plenty of times where like, okay, I didn't realize that my transness was so visible. And I go from being Abby to Abby the trans woman. And it's not fun because you're constantly looking over your shoulder. You're constantly wondering if you pass or if you don't pass or what's going on. And so yeah, that's not fun. And it does sound when you retell it, it does sound like and it happens for anybody. It
right.
sounds like a relatively minor thing, but it does get under your skin so much.
I think I would have been able to deal with it a little bit better if he had had any kind of game plan at all, if like
Yeah.
I could see what he was doing, but he was just so like bumbling and unconfident about it that he was just like, uh I just I'm just gonna ask you, are you a woman? It's just like I didn't know where it was going. It was just like it seemed that much more earnest. Like there was no way he was trying to get under my skin. There's no way it's just like you could tell that he was just drunk and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, people are just being polite to me. So
Yeah.
it's
Did he
just
take your word for it or did he
oh
kind
yeah, he did. I think he was too drunk not to. That was kind of the double-edged sword for him.
well, I mean, at least he took it. I know plenty of people that would ask, like, "Are you a woman?" And you'd be like, "Yeah," and they'd be like, "No, you're not."
I think he was like, seriously? It's like, yeah, seriously? Yeah. It's just like, well, in this case, I was much bigger than him. I don't know. I mean, my very extreme height. I know there are a lot of issues around trans women being tall in general, but I am well like kind of sitting on the dock of the bay in terms of the bell curve. You know, my legs are dangling off the edge of the graph there. That's how tall I am. So, you know, this is the kind of thing where I don't deal with. There are edge cases popping up here. There are like uranium molecules mutating things into other things because we didn't expect anyone to be this tall. You know, like no one is actually as tall as I am, not even me. And so when he comes up, it's just like this is completely uncharted territory. And usually people just like, maybe he's afraid of me.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, on the
but-
other hand, like I don't know, I've seen some really tall people who I assume are cis, and I mean, just it sucks having that thing be the center of your existence.
yeah.
So
I don't like it. I mean, it only occurred to me recently. Like, so, I mean, when I first started transitioning, I started hearing, you know, a lot of the cis feminist complaints about, you know, just the kind of things that all women have to go through. And they're like, oh, yeah, all women get these cat calls all the time. I'm like, well, I wasn't getting them. And I felt weird because I was just like, wait, am I not woman enough? Do I want to be objectified or like feeling unsafe? I mean, certainly that sense of unsafety that I felt on Friday night just kind of, you know, exposed my, you know, soft squishy center. And so that wasn't cool, but it was just like, is this making me less feminine? And it was only recently that I realized just like, well, I've kind of been getting these unsolicited comments on my height since I was in kindergarten or whatever, where people just like, I was in Minneapolis when this happened, and I was just like, when I was walking between the hotel to dinner to like a Walgreens back to the hotel, I had 4 different people on the street just yell at me about my height, just yell at me about how tall I was. Just like, oh, I do get harassed on the street. It's just more vague and not always explicitly sexual because people are kind of vaguely intimidated by me. Okay. So, I mean, it's become kind of a sore spot, especially because that was, you know, one of the biggest reasons why I didn't come out of the closet very fast.
yeah, and it's like so. I don't. Yeah, it sucks, but like, what do you do about that? How do you go about life? Do you just deal with it, or what's
I,
the best response you can have to people that do that?
I mean, it depends on the day. I mean, to some extent, you know, yeah, you kind of have to get used to living it with it every day of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks and it, you know, feels bad, but you know, my transition was kind of it grew out of a soil bed full of hopelessness. You know, it was kind of like, oh well, I conclude like there are some things where people is just like, oh, I don't have the right body type. Oh, you know, my face is wrong. You know, my genitals or my, you know, chest or whatever. I mean, people can say like all sorts of things that they think are wrong with themselves, and almost all the time there is some solution, whether it's a surgery, whether it's some, you know,
Mm-hmm.
diet or exercise. It's not always healthy, but there's always that like possibility in your head. With height, that's one of the few things where nothing can be done about it.
Yeah,
Like zero, you know, established standard for like changing your height. You are stuck up here. And so you have, if you're as tall as I am, you know, 6'7", you have become resigned to that height. You have become resigned to it. It's like, well, guess I'm stuck with this. And then once you realize, oh, I can transition anyway, cool. It's a very different experience. You know?
yeah. All right. Well, at least you got through that. I mean, that's always fun.
Yeah, I wanted to go swimming over the weekend at my hotel pool. I got a great, like, a really nice hotel from one of those like mystery Priceline deals.
Oh, nice.
It was just like a 4-star Hyatt. I was just like, oh man, they got a big old swimming pool. I got my 2 piece. I got this, you know, kind of sexy bikini number with little like skirty flappy thing to cover my business, and I was just like, yeah, I could rock this. I could feel so, and then just like, I don't know, that experience just shook my comfort in being around other people. I'm just like, oh, I cannot be in water. I will be exposed.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
I'm already kind of slow, but I'm even slower in water. Oh boy.
Yeah. It sucks. We're deciding whether or not we want to go on one of those handlebar cruises. Those for my work. My group at work is deciding whether or not to go on one of those things where you hop on a little cart that's like powered by everybody pedaling and you can drink on it.
You know, beer and exercise. It's a good combination.
Exactly. I don't know what those are called, but we're thinking about doing that or a pool party. And I'm really torn. Water sucks. Swimming sucks for trans women.
You know, I felt so okay about it, like, up until Friday. I was just like, wow, I have this weird amount of confidence around this. I'm okay with this. You know, it's fine. I can go out there and no one's gonna bother me, and I can wear whatever I want. Who gives a shit?
Yep.
And
And
yeah,
then one drunk person can just take that and just
yeah. I mean, it wasn't even like a disheveled drunk person. He had a nice haircut. So it was just like it was a real person. It wasn't like some jerk that I could write off. I'm just like, you seem like you have a job. You seem like a member of polite society who I can't just dismiss as being some transphobe. You know? Oh, it's all in the haircut.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to get a haircut.
Yeah, me too.
EJ, I got a favor to ask you.
What's up, Abu?
Before the show, we talked about a story that I was going to tell. I have completely forgotten what that is.
What about your hormone levels?
Oh yeah. Hormone levels. Thanks. I'm tired.
I think you might be forgetful because of your hormone levels.
Hormone levels.
I
Yeah. So I got I got my levels back. And as we've talked about, I am doing 2 grams of estrogen cream all over my body, but not in the breasts because we don't know if that causes a cancer or not. I'm doing progesterone on my tits and 150 milligrams Spiro and 1 pill of bicalutamide. I don't know exactly. I can't remember what the actual dose is. But anyways, I went in and had my checkup. We got my estrogen and my estradiol and estrone levels worked out, so the ratio is perfect with the cream. And then we went in to check after a while to see if the levels had gone up once we had raised it up. And I got the results back. Hang on, bicalutamide, 50 milligrams bicalutamide. I got my levels back. And EJ, do you know how much estrogen I have in my body?
6.
Might as well be. I got like 130
estrogens.
picograms per milliliter. And that is, I want to be at 300.
Huh.
Minimum.
Sounds like you should do more then.
Yeah, I should just rub more stuff into my skin. This is the thing though. I'm already rubbing like so much cream into my forearms. Like I'm waking up just feeling sticky.
Could you like put it into a chili or something?
A chili?
Yeah, you know, kind of
I mean, the whole point of doing the cream was so it doesn't go through the liver. And so if we put it into chili,
I know, I'm kidding.
I know, but chili sounds good right now.
That's
So yeah. So my hormones once again have not come back the way we want them. I have never been above 150. I'm really pissed off at that. I'm not sure what the hell's going on. We're gonna go and try to get some freaking injections into my body, and we're gonna try and do it without me blacking out. So I don't know what that's gonna take, but I'm gonna be doing my damnedest to be able to stick myself with a needle and not black out because F this.
Yeah, I just got back into the habit of kneeling myself. I had to step off from it after the shortage a few years ago, and
Yeah.
I just did like my second injection of phase 2.
Have you ever had any issues with getting like lightheaded or nauseous and blacking out?
I've never blacked out. It's never gotten to that bad. I've always figured it's some kind of like I've always figured it's been in my head, you know? I mean, it's something where I put it into my thigh, and I'm just like, "Oh, this feels funny." I just figured
Hmm.
like the same way when I accidentally eat something with mayonnaise on it, I'm like, "This tastes funny." It's just like, "This is weird in my body. I can feel it like an alive creature." It's just like that's the same way I feel.
Is that
And
mayonnaise though? Are you that mayonnaise? It sounds like you're eating bad mayonnaise if it's like moving around like a
oh
creature.
no, any kind of mayonnaise, I feel very strange about having it in my body. I have a weird eating disorder. I have a very weird eating disorder. This is not a joke. I feel very strange about mayonnaise. When I accidentally find it was on a sandwich, I'm just like, "Oh my god, it's in my body."
And we're not going to finish this sandwich.
Yeah, usually not finish the sentence. I don't know why, it's just eggs and oil. I eat
Oh,
both of those.
oh.
A very weird eating disorder. But anyhow, I felt kind of the same way about plunging an entire needle into my thigh and then pushing a whole thing. And it's just like I can feel the estrogen kind of flipping and flopping around in my thigh. This is weird.
Mm. I mean, I think the thing that did it for me was the resistance I felt when pushing the plunger down.
Huh?
Because it's like this is supposed to squirt right out, but it didn't squirt right out. It like there was resistance, and it took a lot of pressure to shove all that estrogen into my thigh. And I
Yeah.
think that's what did it. I was, yeah, not happy. And I also that it was in the morning. I didn't have much to eat that morning. I think I had like a ton of coffee. That's about it. And I had the night before just some of the most awful panic attacks ever. Like I did not do well the night before. I was having a rough time. And I hope that if I go in and try it again, make sure I eat a bunch, sleep well the night before, and don't have any breakups or fights before then.
Yeah. That'd be really good.
Yeah.
Try not to have any like drunk medium sized guys with a bad perspective on the size of other people approach you either.
Is a 5'9" guy medium sized for a cis male?
I don't know. I have no perspective whatsoever.
I feel like that's true.
Everyone seems medium-sized to me.
I feel like you have a better perspective than everyone else.
Everyone just seems the same size to me, Abo.
Okay.
You seem the same size to me as every other woman. You have
Okay.
passing privilege to me.
Ugh.
I
So, okay. Um, anyways, so that's the estrogen. We're going to be working on that. I would really like to get the estrogen figured out. Um, as far as the Spyro goes, do you know how much Spyro you're supposed to have in your body? If as a cis female?
8.
8? Close enough. You're supposed to have 15 picograms per milliliter. Any less than that, and you risk losing short-term memory. Do you know how much a um, cis male is supposed to have?
200.
It's going to be about 250 to 270.
I was close.
You were close on both accounts. How much do I have in my body right now?
600.
200, 230, 225, something like that. Very,
Actually,
very close to a cis male.
I think the last time that I got my levels checked, that's about where I was at, where it was just like my levels were just completely like cis seeming, and that's why I switched back to my injections.
Yeah, I'm so tired of this. I've never had my testosterone be this high since coming out or starting on pills.
Yeah.
I ran out of my bicalutamide for a few days, but I'm still taking 150 Aspiro every day. That should knock me down to at least below 200, I would hope. Well below 200, I would hope, but apparently not. Apparently my liver is just giving me a big FU. Um,
Body
so I have more testosterone in my body than I do estrogen right now, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, I was the same last time I checked, and I was just like, at some level, it was like I was really frustrated, but also at another level, I was like, oh, this means that maybe my boobs will get bigger. You know, but it's just like, oh, well, maybe that means everything that's been happening so far that I'm just like, this is fine, I guess. It's just like, well, maybe that once I fix my levels, maybe everything will be fine in however long, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, and I'd like that. I think that once they get figured out, like things are going to be a lot more manageable, a lot more like things are. I'm gonna be much more happy with myself and how I am, or
Yeah.
how I look. Um, but man, we've been trying for a while and we can't figure it out. We've tried injections, pills, buckling pills, boofing pills. Do
Boof.
you know what boofing is?
No.
Dr. Powers told me this himself. Boofing is sticking pills up your butt. I tried that.
Oh.
I tried it.
So no dice then.
It didn't dissolve.
Oh, yeah, butt stuff's always a crapshoot for me too.
um oh, so I've tried so many different things and nothing's working. I can't figure it out. I just want to have my estrogen be where it's supposed to be. I want my testosterone to be where it's supposed to be. It could never get there. I just want to find something that works and have it just, okay, we found something that works. Let's just do this for forever and not worry about it. You can go on to think about other things. Because right now, like for like a few weeks of having that high testosterone, I can tell a difference. I smell funny. My smell is just different to me. My hair is getting greasier. I'm breaking out. My balls have swelled up to the size that they used to be before coming out. So there's that. Morning wood, that's great. So it's frustrating because I can see all these things coming back and I don't like them. And I don't know what to do.
Well, I believe in the power of you not blacking out next time.
I'm gonna believe in it too. I'm gonna make sure I'm prepared. Friday morning,
Ooh,
4 days.
heck yeah.
I'm gonna get up early. I'm gonna have a lot to eat.
Yeah, man. Get
Nope.
like a breakfast cereal commercial balanced breakfast.
Yeah,
Like a bunch of eggs and some waffles and a whole goddamn grapefruit.
I know. And a glass of milk and a glass of orange juice.
And just like the whole like jug, the glass like
Yep.
you're
Pitcher.
in there, just like ready for lots of refills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just have a Michael Phelps breakfast.
A Dwayne Johnson breakfast. Oh no, I'd get sick. I
Oh.
would immediately exit my body from injecting myself, I'm sure.
Oh,
Uh, anyways, we got any more personal stuff to talk about?
personal stuff. I mean, I had a really cool Twitter conversation with Shakina Nafak last week. That was awesome.
Who is Shakina Nafak?
She is my.
For those of us that don't know, because I obviously know who Shakina
Oh
Nafak.
yeah, you
Yeah,
definitely do.
definitely. Yeah.
Shakina Nafak is my favorite transgender actress.
Oh.
She is on the show Difficult People on Hulu.
Uh-huh.
She joined in season 2, and season 3 is about to come out in a couple of weeks, I think. Something like that. Yeah, the trailer just came out for it, and it has just like she manages to, just in that trailer, in the span of about 1.5 seconds maybe, perfectly encapsulate how I feel about drag culture. It's so perfect. But she on the show she plays Lola, who's like a trans waitress who works at the same place that the main character played by Billy Eichner works at. And she is a trans truther. So she is, very in your face about about just being very like assertively pro trans, but then uses that same like confidence to advance theories that the Bush administration did 9/11. And so it screws with people so much. And she is so great. Um, she posted a thread on like just the other week where she said, I know I'm gonna, what'd she say? Um, I have it right here. She said, I may piss off a lot of people with this statement, but yes, I believe trans women have to acknowledge and dismantle their own male privilege. That was something where I was looking at it, as just like,
Yeah.
okay, I see where you're going. I see
Yeah.
where you're going, because it's something where, I mean, there's a great everyday feminism article. It's just like trans women don't have male privilege, period. It's just like, yeah, that's a really useful thing to be able to say. To be able to say, it's just like, yeah, because if we're dealing with turfs or whatever, we don't want to, like, we do experience that differently. We're not just like men underneath who like
Yeah.
secret decision. But the way we have to talk about, like, I have, like what I said in response in the threads, that I've always had trouble with the language of male privilege as it relates to trans women. Like, one of the things that I thought the most about um before I was transitioning was, do I want to sacrifice all this privilege that I have, as being perceived as a upper middle class 6'7" white dude, and go to being a trans woman, which has a lot less privilege?
Mhm.
Do I want to think of, and that was a real thought process I had to go through in my head.
Oh yeah.
There were benefits that I did gain from being perceived that way. That doesn't mean that I continue to necessarily be benefited in all those same ways. Um, like, the problem is the language that gets put out there that says we're inherently more privileged now because we were assigned male then.
No.
Like,
No. No. No.
I
No.
did advance in my career and get taken more seriously in certain ways because of how long I presented male for as long as I did. But there's an instinct for us to kind of rank privileges to each other, where we say that, oh, privilege X is more powerful than privilege Y. And really, it's kind of a matrix.
Yeah. It's, you give it, it's usually for a lot of people, it's a conscious decision to give it up.
Yes.
Like, I know that if I go down this path, I'm going to lose a lot of what I have.
Right.
And that is something that every trans woman, every trans guy, every trans person goes through.
I think for trans guys, it's a little bit different, just because it's not as, like, you can for trans women, you can very definitely see that being, a cis dude is inherently, a more privileged position than being, a trans woman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but between being a trans guy and a cisgender woman, that's a little squishier. That's a little,
Yeah.
it could go either way. And it's kind of a weird balance, because, if we accept that women are less privileged than men, and then trans people are less privileged than cis people, it it gets, I'm not going to say that it's like it's necessarily like cancels out or anything. It's just kind of squishy.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's not a bar graph that can be directly, each category can be directly compared to each other. You
Right.
can take into consideration a person's intersectionality, a person's, I mean, just because you have privilege in one direction doesn't mean you're going to have privilege in this direction. And so there are definitely different kinds of privileges out there, and there's certainly privileges that come along with being trans. Um, if you asked me to list them off, there would be far more for being cis and heterosexual than there are to being queer and trans. I
It's
know for me, I wound up excelling in my life for coming out as trans. And that may have been just because I got out of college and that's how that happened. But I mean, I was not doing mentally, I was not doing well. And because of that mental instability from not being out of the closet yet, I feel like I did not achieve what I could have.
But is that privilege from being trans necessarily, or is that privilege from being out?
I think that privilege is from being out. That privilege is from being comfortable in myself.
Yeah. I think it's that one of the things we get defensive and say, we say, justifiably defensive. We say trans women don't have male privilege, which is kind of a defense against having our struggles, as a group erased by our personal history. Like the advantages that I might have reaped from, growing up and being perceived as male don't really put a dent in our suicide or poverty rate as a community, but if you give transphobes an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
You have to go hard with that.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. We got a couple of news stories we want to cover before we head on out of here. I'm going to play the soundbite because we didn't play the soundbite for the diary portion, so we're going to play the soundbite for the news. Why is there nothing?
Sound bites.
This one. This one. All right, so we got a couple of news stories we want to talk about. One of the things that has come up recently is we had a post on the Facebook page that got a lot of attention, which was really nice. But it was the map showing the United States of America and showing that in 48 states, it is perfectly legal to go into a courtroom and argue that you were so panicked by the discovery that someone was trans that you freaked out and killed them. That's a perfectly legal argument to make.
Perfectly legal.
Perfectly legal in 48 states. I think it's Illinois and California that have said, nope, that's a bunch of shit. You're not allowed to talk. You can't even say that. That's not legit. But in every other state, like you can, depending how much of a silver tongue you are, you can propose that argument to a jury and try and convince them that that is a justifiable reason to murder somebody.
And the thing is that it works. Like a lot of the stuff that came up, in the comments, like over the course of the week, there are people who were like commenting on it and saying it's just like, oh, well, people can say whatever they want. And it's just like, okay, but it's just because it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't have any excuse to murder someone. Okay, but when people say that, they get it dropped down. They don't get off, but they will get it, dropped from homicide to manslaughter,
Mm-hmm.
which they'll have a significantly, it'll be easier to, it's less stigmatized for people to murder trans people. And
And also, instead of getting life in jail for strangling a trans woman, you get 5 years, 10 years.
sure, that's a lot less unless
Yeah.
you do it fast.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing. I actually wound up getting into not an argument, but a bit of a debate with one of my coworkers today who sits next to me. He was the first person to um he was the first person at work to ever unsolicited talk to me about me being trans at work. And he did that by asking me what pronouns I preferred, which was nice. If you're going to talk about somebody about how they're trans, that's a great question to ask. And that was it. And he's a cool guy. We chat. He doesn't get it. He calls me Abby. He refers to me by the correct pronouns. But we had this conversation about whether or not a trans woman should disclose the fact that she is trans before getting in bed with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the topic of debate. I made it very clear that, I think that, I certainly feel like that's a topic I would want to talk about before getting into bed with somebody. And I think that's generally a smart move. However, if you don't want to, or you don't need to, or it's just not something that you want to do, like, you should not be put at greater risk for doing that. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we do for safety's sake, but we shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not right that we have to do that. And it's not like we should have to cater to cis people. I mean, what if I am disappointed to find out that a woman has a vajuber?
Yeah. Or, what if you're just, there's so many things that you can, once you take somebody's clothes off, be disappointed about. The fact the type of genitals is one thing, but there's so many different things that you don't know about. It's just like men who get mad at women because they're not the same way they look once they look different once they wash their makeup off.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, take a girl swimming on the first date.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe you should take them swimming because it's a fun and wholesome activity.
Exactly. And it's better to figure out that you're an asshole before getting into a huge relationship.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had a talk, and I don't know, like, I don't think you should be required to, if I were to go home with somebody, say it was just like we met at a bar, decided to go home together, like one night stand kind of deal. Perfectly fine. We can do that. And say it's at a gay bar, and I just assume that he knows. I assume that, like, oh, you met me at a gay bar, you probably could tell. I don't need to talk to you about this. And then we go up, and it happens, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And he's surprised by it. I mean, I think it's still a douche move, but I think it's a little bit more acceptable for the guy to just say, like, hey, listen, I'm sorry, but this isn't me. This isn't my thing.
Have you ever read the essay "The Null Hypothesis"?
The null hypothesis. Hypothesis. I have not.
It was on this it was on a blog network, Free Thought Blogs, which I guess was I guess it got taken down somewhere, so you have to like find it archived somewhere else. But the gist of it, and this is something that like really influenced me as I was coming out. But the pun, of course, is that hypothesis. But the gist of it is that like the assumption that we make when we say is like, how do I know if I'm trans? It's just like, well, how do you know if you're cis? You know, the assumption is that the default is cis. Well, what if it's not? What if people are just like one thing or the other? You don't say like the default is boy. How do you know if you're girl? You know, the default is white. How do you know if you're Asian? You know, things like that. You shouldn't, if we just accept that people are either trans or cis, that women either have a beepus or a vagoober, if they have one or the other, and just like it's societally conditioned that people, expect there to be one over the other. But if we say that in any like realm of possibility that the burden should be on the trans person to disclose what their genitalia are, um, that kind of flies in the face of the whole, the whole baseline that trans women are women,
Mhm.
as valid as all other women. No, I mean, if you, in a perfect world, in the world that we are striving to build, you know, if you take a lady home with you and you undo her knickers, whether you find an innie or an outie, you can have a gay old time or a straight old time.
No,
It's straight either way,
no,
unless you're a gay girl.
I don't know. As much as I don't like it, I think that, I mean, acknowledging the fact that we do not currently live in a society where that is something that is commonly accepted.
Yeah.
Um, how do you get to that? And I mean, do we expect to see that at some point in our lifetime?
In our lifetime? No, probably not. Well, depending on whether we hit the singularity or whether like have you read 17776 yet?
Um,
What football will look like in the future?
wait. 1776. That was the. Oh no, that was
17776. One,
70.
three sevens, and a six.
I have not.
Okay, it's a really cool sci-fi story and you should read it, but one of the things is just like, well, anyhow, the idea is that like
That's not the one where James Franco goes back in time to save Kennedy, is it?
no,
That
that's
is.
like a regular year. No, I'll send it to you after the show. It's this really cool like science fiction thing that you can just read like a web page. It's a story.
Okay.
But my point is that like in our like standard lifetimes, yeah, we gotta accept that things are probably not gonna be perfect. We can work toward getting them better. We can work toward in the communities that we feel safe in, the ones that we interact with. I mean, I'm not gonna go, down to, you know, some like I don't know, some random bar in Butte, Montana or whatever and just pick out some random individual and say it's like, "Hey, you should be fine with my genitals." That's never going to happen, but I think we can work toward a point where there's a destigmatization of the idea of you know, trans women having beepuses and it's
Yeah.
within queer communities, within the communities that are more liberal and progressive, and the ones in which we are more likely to operate.
Yeah, I think trying to move away from a society in which fragile masculinity is such a prevalent thing. And that's a huge thing. I think there's a lot of I need to maintain my masculinity, so if it got out that I did anything with anybody with a dick, like that would compromise me. I think that is a very, very poisonous thought process to have. And I think that that does a lot to um, damage the kinds of things that trans women and queer people are trying to achieve.
Yeah. Have you seen this? There's like a Axe body spray like social media campaign. Is like, is it okay for guys to do this? Is it okay for guys to? It's actually like really progressive, like a lot more than you expect from Axe.
Yeah, I saw that, and I think I saw it, or maybe I saw an article about it, and I remember just watching it. All I could think was like, man, like I am very surprised that this company is doing this. I'm not sure I buy this.
Like, is it okay for guys to experiment with other guys? It's like, yeah, yeah, it is.
You know, I mean, I think that's great. Like that specific marketing campaign alone is pretty cool. However, Axe body spray as I'm looking over the span of their marketing efforts definitely hasn't really done much for the person who doesn't need to have a super masculine body.
No.
But hopefully they change. This is a good thing to happen recently, and hopefully it continues, but we'll see.
I mean, I think I've said a couple of times on our Facebooks and our Twitters and stuff like that, it's just like, are these, mega corporations going to lead us to salvation? Of course not. But as long as we live in a capitalist system, it's kind of nice to have them, doing some of the right things and to
Oh
be
yeah.
to have some effort behind us. It's kind of nice for, back a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year, when they were floating a anti-trans bill in Georgia. Coca-Cola is like, no, and then they didn't. So it's just like, okay, yeah, I'll drink my Coke Zero.
Georgia or North Carolina?
Georgia, that was one that where it didn't go through,
Okay.
because that's where Coca-Cola is based, and Coca-Cola said no.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I got a lot more respect for Coca-Cola now.
Yeah, I mean, now they're probably like murdering child soldiers in the rainforest or something, because mega corporations across the world do those kinds of things. I don't know what bad things they do, but
That's that's a big leap to take, but okay. Yeah, there's yeah.
saw Michael Moore documentaries from the 90s. I know what happens.
I've met Michael Moore before. He's an interesting guy.
I bet.
Yeah. Anyways, um so yeah, that's what's been going on with that. Next thing we wanted to talk about, so yeah, John Barrowman. Now, before we get into everything that we want to talk about with going on with John Barrowman, what do you, I mean, completely aside from everything that he has done in the public eye or anything you may have seen, as far as his character portrayals in television shows, one of the most notably being Captain Jack Harkness in Torchwood and Doctor Who. And what do you, I love Jack Harkness. I love John Barrowman. I want him in my mouth so bad. And he's gay and he's a queer icon for a lot of people, and he's a very masculine man, but also doesn't necessarily need to be a masculine man. Like he definitely is not attached to his masculinity, which I think is really awesome. And now that I think that's great. I think that's awesome. I think he has the basis for being an amazing ally to the trans community and a huge advocate for gay rights. But this goofball never ceases to disappoint. Do you want to read what happened?
So, of course, in 2014, a couple years ago,
Go
he
way back.
going way back, he used the word tranny, and he was just like, trans people need to chill out and take a joke and whatever. And everybody's just like, we'll ignore it. Who cares? And well, trans people weren't like that, but the rest of the world in general. And then this past week, he was at the Comic Con, and he dressed up in a sparkly little dress, and it
Hard
was
to stress, yeah.
dress. He's like, I'm the transgender TARDIS. Wah.
Yeah. Ugh.
He's saying like Copacabana, I guess. It's like made a whole big thing of it.
So yeah, it wasn't just the fact that he came out and made a joke out of himself wearing a dress. It's not that he came out and made a joke about him being a man in a dress and being, look at me, I'm transgender. He like drove this into the ground.
Yeah.
Ugh.
There's a lot of things where like there are a lot of points where people can argue on it. Like, I don't like the man in a dress as joke thing in general. And
No, I do not either.
there are people who will go to defend it, but then to like layer on the look, I'm transgender, and look, la di da di da, whatever, I'm doing some performance or what, I don't know. It was
There's
just several layers of garbage in like it was like a 7-layer chili dip of trash, of
yeah.
trash.
There's definitely certain things that I think I can definitely managed to ignore or at least pick my battles with. We had a guy at work, one of the team leaders. Two teams went up against each other for production, and one team lost, and the team leader came in wearing a dress. And he's walking around in this dress, wearing a t-shirt underneath of it, playing Madonna on his cell phone and making a big thing out of it. And it's like, all right, you know what? I'm not that fine. Just I'm not going to say anything. We actually wound up having a conversation about it later on, in which he referred to trans people as trannies. So
Oh,
that didn't go very far.
oh.
But yeah, as far as like just wearing it, John Barrowman's worn dresses before. It's been fine. He wears dresses all the time. Whatever. That's the whole point of him. That's the whole thing with him not being attached to his masculinity. So yeah, not a huge deal. I can get over that. Yeah, there's certain things that I can just you just learn to kind of be like, okay, I'm not gonna get my panties in a bunch over this. Like Chris Pratt. A lot of trans people I know don't like Chris Pratt because of a joke that he made towards Jennifer Lawrence about I don't know, he made some dumb joke. It was like while we were filming our sex scene, I could feel your penis.
Yeah, that was it.
Um and it was an improv rapid fire, like make the other person laugh kind of deal. And I can overlook that. Like that's just yeah, people say dumb shit sometimes.
I still have a problem with it. Like, the problem I have is not so much the individual thing that any individual says.
Mm-hmm.
It's that like as a society, no one is held accountable for it.
Yes.
And that even if, like, I would prefer a world like in which I had the latitude to decide whether or not, this is something that we can give a pass to. But because society has already decided to give a pass to every single transphobic thing anybody does,
Yeah.
drives me nuts when like it doesn't get acknowledged, when like they just like you can't get an apology from celebrities who will.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, Chris Pratt did come out and apologize.
No,
Oh, he didn't?
no.
Okay.
I have only found 2 instances of celebrities ever apologizing for transphobic behavior. Someone informed me in one of the comments on our Facebook post there was someone in Australia who I had, like Tim Minchin, I guess, had done it
Oh
too.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
I'm
love to mention.
I'm not too familiar with him, but the only 2 that I've
Talking a
ever
few
found.
hundred virgins. It's one of
Pardon?
his
What'd you say?
one of his top songs is called 10-Foot Cock and a Few Hundred Virgins.
Oh yeah,
It's really good.
right on.
I like what he does. Anyways,
So apparently he apologized once, and then but the only other people I've ever found online who has apologized to the trans community for doing wrong by us is do you have any guesses?
oh geez, I don't know.
It was in 2011, both of them, separate incidents. Kelly Osbourne and Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh,
Only 2 people I've ever found online who,
Kelly
like when I
Osbourne,
was
really?
I've been searching around and around and like nothing. And I can like find all sorts of stuff. Like you can go through all sorts of celebrities who have just done like who've said just the most wretched stuff and they've gotten away with it. Ronda Rousey, like
Oh my God.
she's a nightmare. I found there's one that like nobody like I haven't found even a little bit of outrage about, which was that like in Mindy Kaling's first book, is everyone hanging out without me? Um, is everyone else hanging out without me? Um, she just she just dropped the word tranny in there at one point, and I searched for it. I was just like, I was listening to the book, years after the fact. I just heard it. I was just like, I got so angry, and then I Googled it, and the only like instance I could find was that passage in the book being quoted by the New York Times uncritically.
Uh,
Like, oh, no one noticed. And so it just makes me so angry that nobody ever gets called on it. So
yeah.
like even if Chris Pratt's joke was harmless, that there's no critique is what makes
Yeah.
me angry.
I'm sure Barrowman has heard the outcry.
Yeah.
I'm sure that these people hear it. I'm just pretty sure that they don't feel like it's necessary to do anything about it.
Or that they're like they have a publicist who says it's just like, oh well, if you come down on the side of trannies, then you're gonna look gay and people aren't gonna see your next movie.
That's
That's
what
equally as likely to me.
Barrowman is one of the gayest people out there. So I mean that should I don't get why can he not just
I mean,
be
there's palatable gay, and then there's tranny gay. We love Ellen, but it's like Mindy Kaling on the Mindy Project. She managed to have. I know that Laverne Cox was on an episode. It's like awesome, great job, Mindy Kaling. Now apologize for your other thing, please. Acknowledge that you made a mistake. We will forgive you. Just acknowledge it.
I would absolutely love to go back to loving John Barrowman. I would love to go back to dreaming of him at night.
I know. I can see your mouth watering from here.
Anyways, I think that just about does it. Before we're calling it, I'm done. Like, that's it. If you got questions, go ahead and send them over to diaryofatranswoman@gmail.com. If you want to find the show on Twitter, we are at Trans Diary Show. I am at Abby Geek. We are on Facebook at Diary of a Trans Woman.
On Twitter, I'm at GMX500.
GMX500 for EJ. And if you want to help the show out, 5-star reviews wherever you get this podcast is going to go a long ways towards helping the show out. But if you feel so inclined, head on over to patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. We are so close to getting our sticker level. I'm so pumped. We just had a huge pledge come in from Audrey. Audrey, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it so much. If you want to support the show, head on over to there and check out some of the reward tiers. See if any of them catch your fancy. I think that just about does it. Artwork for the show is provided by Taylor Elaine Straw. Check out more of her work at TaylorElainePhoto.com. Music for the show is provided by Same Sex Mary. Check out more of their work at samesexmary.bandcamp.com. That does it. Everybody out there, take care and have fun.
Bye.
Bye.